Stegosaurian or Stegosauria is a group of armored herbivorous ornithischian dinosaurs, most notable for their various arrangements of plates and spikes along their spines. Stegosaurians vary in shape and size, but they all possess these distinctive vertically attached osteoderms or bony cord scales that are not part of the animal's actual skeleton, that are used as armor and display structures. Most Stegosaurians fall into one of these two families, the more basal Huayangosaurus and the derived Stegosaurus. And in this video, I'll present every Stegosauria ever described, including possible synonyms and nomina dubia, sorted based on their estimated size, from the smallest to the largest. Bashanosaurus is the smallest known Stegosaurian, at just about 3 meters in length. It was known from incomplete skeletons, and it's unclear if the specimens belonged to fully grown animals. Bashanosaurus was described in 2022 and was found to be one of the oldest and most basal members of the Stegosaurian group. It lived during the Middle Jurassic and is considered as an early diverging Stegosaurian from the Thyreosaurans. Dravidosaurus is a dubious genus discovered in India in deposits from the late Cretaceous. The fossils attributed to Dravidosaurus come from a poorly preserved partial skeleton, making it difficult for researchers to accurately identify. Some consider the fossil to be highly weathered plesiosaur bones. The age of the fossil is also uncharacteristic of a Stegosaurian. No other member of this group is known from the late Cretaceous period. The real identity of this dinosaur is still a controversy. Chungkingosaurus is a small Stegosaurian from late Jurassic China. The type species is estimated to be less than 4 meters long. Chungkingosaurus was named in 1983 from several partial specimens belonging to multiple adult individuals. Its morphology has been observed to be similar to a larger contemporaneous Stegosaurian Tuojiangosaurus, and it belongs to the family Huayangosauridae. Chungkingosaurus also lived alongside other Stegosaurians like Gigantspinosaurus, giant sauropods like Mamenchisaurus, and carnivorous theropods such as Sinraptor and Yingshanosaurus, as well as other animals. Chialingosaurus was the first Stegosaurian discovered in China. It was described in 1959 based on partial skeletons discovered in 1957 in Sichuan province. It is similar to Kentrosaurus from Africa, but its validity has been questioned. Due to the lack of apparent autapomorphies, Chialingosaurus is considered a nomen dubium. Regnosaurus was one of the first Stegosaurian ever described. It was named in 1848, initially as an iguanodontid. Regnosaurus was found to be a Stegosaurian first in 1909. It was described based only on a jaw fragment that's similar to that of Huayangosaurus. Other bone fragments, such as a pubis and some dermal spikes, have been attributed to this name, but as the remains are so limited, Regnosaurus is considered a nomen dubium. Huayangosaurus is a genus of basal Stegosaurian from China. It is the eponymous genus to the family Huayangosauridae. Huayangosaurus was described in 1982 from several partial specimens belonging to up to 12 individuals. Like other Stegosaurians, Huayangosaurus was lined with 2 rows of plates and spikes arranged in pairs. It also had traits that are characteristics of basal Stegosaurians, members of the family Huayangosauridae, those being the presence of shoulder spines, flatter osteoderms on the flank, and a small club at the end of the tail, whereas more derived Stegosauridae lack these features. Gigantspinosaurus is a basal Stegosaurian sharing traits with the Huayangosaurids. It is notable for its obnoxiously large shoulder spines. The name, derived from Latin, means giant spine, referring to this feature. Gigantspinosaurus was described in 1992 from a specimen found in 1985 that was previously thought to belong to a different Stegosaurian, Tuojiangosaurus. The specimen is relatively complete. There is even a small patch of skin impression from the left shoulder of the animal preserved in the fossil. Old reconstructions have attached the shoulder spine upside down. The spine should actually extend upwards, ending higher than the top of the animal's back. Gigantspinosaurus lived in a rich environment alongside many iconic dinosaurs from late Jurassic China from the Upper Saximiao Formation. Craterosaurus is a dubious genus of Stegosaurian from England. It was only known from a fragment of a backbone. It was described in 1874 and considered to be a Stegosauria in 1912. Craterosaurus is no longer recognized as a valid taxon. Kentrosaurus was first discovered in 1909 in Tanzania and was described in 1915. All known Kentrosaurus materials were discovered by German expeditions in Tanzania. Over 1,200 bones belonging to 50 individuals were found. Many of the bones were destroyed in World War II, unfortunately. Today, the remaining materials are all housed in German museums. Although no complete skeletons are known, the remains provided a quite complete picture of the animal. Kentrosaurus was relatively small. It probably fed on low-growing vegetation. The location of the center of mass, near the hips, and the strong thigh muscles might have allowed Kentrosaurus to rear up on its hind legs to reach higher vegetation. The dermal armors of Kentrosaurus display a gradual change of shape from shorter, flatter plates at the neck to longer, more conical spikes towards the tail. Each plate and spikes was found in mirrored left and right versions, indicating that they were arranged symmetrically in pairs. Kentrosaurus also had shoulder spines, a characteristic that is usually lost in more derived stegosaurids. Yingshanosaurus is a relatively small-sized Stegosaurian, named based on the county of Yingshan in Sichuan province, where the fossil was discovered. It was described in 1994 from specimens excavated in 1983. The specimen is partial and fragmented. Yingshanosaurus possessed huge shoulder spines, similar to those of Gigantspinosaurus, and had small, fin-shaped dorsal plates on its back. It is classified as a stegosaurid despite sharing some basal Huayangosaurid traits. Paranthodon is a genus of Stegosaurian from early Cretaceous South Africa. Paranthodon was named in 1929. It is only known from partial and fragmented remains. It was initially confused as a Pareiasaur and then was described as an Ankylosaurian before it was concluded to be a basal true Stegosaurian. But due to the tiny amount of material known, its classification within the group is unclear. Monkonosaurus is a dubious Stegosaurian genus. It was named in 1986 based on a partial skeleton found in Tibet. Its fossil indicates it as one of the oldest Stegosaurian, but due to the limited materials, not much is known about it, and the genus is considered a nomen dubium. Baiyinosaurus is a newly discovered Stegosaurian from China. The fossil was discovered in the Gansu province and contained a partial skeleton comprising fragmentary bones of the cranium and several vertebrae. No osteoderms were found. Baiyinosaurus also showed ancestral traits of basal thyreophorans. Phylogenetic analysis recovered Baiyinosaurus as an early member of Stegosauria. Isaberrysaura is a genus of Stegosaurian from Argentina. Isaberrysaura is only known from one partial skeleton. Its classification is problematic, since it shares traits with different dinosaur clades. Subsequent phylogenetic analysis recovered Isaberrysaura as a Stegosaurian. The specimen contains fossilized stomach contents, giving us an insight of the animal's diet. A mass of seeds was observed, which had been swallowed whole, indicating the possibility that Isaberrysaura's digestion was helped by bacteria. Lexovisaurus is a Stegosaurian with disputed validity. Materials assigned to Lexovisaurus were discovered in England and France. These specimens have been found to be undiagnostic, and so Lexovisaurus is considered a nomen dubium. The materials assigned to this genus were given a new name, Loricatosaurus. Some authors, however, still retain Lexovisaurus's validity. Loricatosaurus is a genus of Stegosaurian from Middle Jurassic England and France. It was described in 2008 based on 2 specimens, both previously assigned to Lexovisaurus. Loricatosaurus was found to be closely related to Hesperosaurus and Stegosaurus from North America. Thyreosaurus was a unique Stegosaurian in that it was discovered with dermal armor that would lay flat on the animal's skin. It is only known from one partial skeleton, and no regular erect dermal plates were found. This resulted in more speculative reconstructions of this dinosaur. Although there is no direct evidence of Thyreosaurus's armor arrangement, phylogenetic bracketing showed that it likely also possessed double rows of plates and spines, similar to more conventional Stegosaurians, like its closest relative Adratiklit and Dacentrurus. Thyreosaurus was named earlier this year from a specimen found in Morocco. This makes Thyreosaurus the second Stegosaurian ever found in North Africa. Jiangjunosaurus was discovered in 2002 from Xinjiang, China. It remained as an undefined Stegosaurian until the specimen was described in 2007 and named Jiangjunosaurus jungarensis. The specimen came from a subadult individual. It includes the front portion of the animal, found in almost perfect articulation. Jiangjunosaurus was found to be a basal stegosaurid. Alcovasaurus was a large Stegosaurian from the Morrison Formation in the US. It was initially described as a new species of Stegosaurus in 1914, and as Kentrosaurus in 1993. The genus Alcovasaurus was erected in 2016 after a closer analysis found more distinctive traits in the bones, but the validity of Alcovasaurus is still disputed. Some consider it a species within the genus Miragaia, but the validity of Miragaia itself has also been questioned. Miragaia was named based on a parish in Portugal and the geologic unit where it was found. Miragaia was described in 2009 from fossils unearthed during a road construction in 1999. The specimen consists of a relatively complete front part of the skeleton. The rear half was probably destroyed by the road cut. The most notable characteristic of Miragaia is its long neck. It had 17 neck vertebrae, considerably more than other Stegosaurians and even more than most sauropods from the late Jurassic. It is still unclear why Miragaia possessed so many neck bones. One theory is to help it reach more vegetation, but when we look at the other herbivores that lived alongside Miragaia, the reach advantage provided by the elongated neck becomes less apparent. A recent study revealed that Miragaia used its tail for defense. It was able to swing its tail at high speed and resist pressures from the impact. Combined with the long, sharp spikes on its tail, this could produce fatal blows to attacking predators. Miragaia has been suggested to be the synonym of Dacentrurus. New materials of Dacentrurus discovered earlier this year supported this synonymy. The type species of Miragaia is rendered invalid, and the longispinous species returned to the genus Alcovasaurus. Tuojiangosaurus is the best understood Stegosaurian from China. It was first discovered during a construction of a dam in Sichuan province in 1974. More specimens were then discovered and referred to Tuojiangosaurus, giving us a quite complete skeleton of the animal. It was quite large at 6.5 meters. Typical of other Stegosaurians, Tuojiangosaurus also had 2 rows of plates along the spine, a pair of shoulder spikes, and a thagomizer at the tip of the tail. Tuojiangosaurus lived in a diverse ecosystem from the Upper Saximiao Formation alongside many other dinosaurs. Hesperosaurus is a Stegosaurian from late Jurassic Wyoming and Montana. It shared many similarities with its cousin, the Stegosaurus. They have been found to be closely related. Hesperosaurus was described in 2001 from several relatively complete skeletons discovered in the Morrison Formation. Skin impressions have been found in one of the specimens, including a cast of the back plate where it indicated the presence of a horn sheath. A horn or keratin layer would add strength to the plates and provided it with sharp cutting edges as well as bright colors, signifying the function of the plates as both a defensive weapon and display structures. Hypsirophus is possibly a dubious genus of Stegosaurian. It is only known from very limited remains and was mistakenly described as a theropod. It was placed in Stegosauridae many years after its naming. Some researchers consider Hypsirophus a synonym of Stegosaurus or a dubious genus, but others still consider it valid. Yanbeilong is a recently described Stegosaurian and is the youngest known member of the group, dating back to the early Cretaceous. Yanbeilong was described earlier this year from a partial skeleton discovered in 2011. It is thought to represent some of the last surviving members of Stegosauria, before they disappeared completely from the fossil record in the late Cretaceous. Yanbeilong is closely related to other derived stegosaurids like Wuerhosaurus and Stegosaurus. Adratiklit is the first Stegosaurian discovered in North Africa. It was named in 2020 from partial remains found in the Elmas Formation in Morocco. Adratiklit possessed traits of a basal Stegosaurian, but there were no dermal plate fossils found. So Adratiklit's life appearance is unclear, and its reconstructions are speculative. Mongolostegus is a genus of Stegosaurian from early Cretaceous Mongolia. It is only known from a partial skeleton previously assigned under the nomen nudum Wuerhosaurus mongoliensis. This name was later considered invalid, and the specimen was formally named as Mongolostegus in 2018. It is one of the youngest members of Stegosauria. Wuerhosaurus was a large Stegosaurian reaching 7 meters in length and 4 metric tons in body mass. Wuerhosaurus was described in 1973 from a few bones found in China. It has been found to be one of the most derived Stegosaurian. The genus contains 2 species, the holotype Wuerhosaurus homheni and the smaller Wuerhosaurus ordosensis. Some reconstructions depict Wuerhosaurus with rounded, much flatter dorsal plates, but this appears to be an illusion caused by the breakage of the fossilized plates. Due to the lack of fossil evidence, the actual form of the plates is unknown. Stegosaurus was one of the largest and the first Stegosaurian ever described. Its fossil was first discovered during the Bone Wars in Colorado, US. The material was scarce, and early depictions were far from reality. It wasn't until 1885, with the discovery of a near-complete articulated skeleton, that we got a more accurate image of a Stegosaurus in life. To date, we have at least 50 partial skeletons of Stegosaurus, and 3 valid species: the holotype Stegosaurus stanops, the slightly larger Stegosaurus ungulatus, and the obscure Stegosaurus sulcatus. The dermal plate arrangement on Stegosaurus's back is speculated to be in 2 rows of alternating plates, attached in the midline of the back in staggered rows instead of in pairs. The number of plates vary from 17 to 22, with the largest plates located over the hips. It's difficult to tell for certain the main purpose of these plates. They were thin and covered in keratinous sheaths, probably with colorful patterns, making display structure the most likely explanation. The keratinous covering might end in sharp edges, supporting the possibility for them to serve as defensive weapons. And although the presence of an insulating keratin covering would have hampered thermoregulation, such a function cannot be entirely ruled out. The tail spikes or thagomizer are used as a weapon. They protrude horizontally and would have been swung from side to side. Stegosaurus was heavily built and was slow-moving, like a formidable tank. Its feeding strategy is not well understood. Stegosaurus was probably an obligate low browser, feeding on low-growing foliage such as mosses, ferns, cycads, and other plants. Fossil evidence suggests that Stegosaurus lived in herds of various ages, and it coexisted alongside other iconic dinosaurs such as Allosaurus, Diplodocus, Ceratosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and many other dinosaurs. Dacentrurus was the largest Stegosaurian, reaching lengths of 8 to 9 meters and weighing over 7 tons. Initially described as Almosaurus in 1875, it was renamed to Dacentrurus in 1902, after the name Almosaurus was discovered to have already been used for a phytosaur. Dacentrurus is known from a handful of partial specimens, spread in various parts of Western Europe. It had a broad torso, and the limb bones indicated the presence of powerful musculature. Dacentrurus was a beefy animal. Contrast to Stegosaurus, Dacentrurus had relatively long forelimbs and shorter hind limbs, giving it a unique posture among Stegosaurians. Its neck was also notably longer, a feature particularly evident in the Miragaia specimen. The back was lined with double rows of sharp plates and spikes. The bone core alone is almost half a meter long. And although the exact configuration is unclear, the osteoderms are often depicted as transitioning from plates to spikes, arranged in pairs that run down the midline of the neck to the tip of the tail. Dacentrurus used its tail, equipped with a thagomizer, as a defensive weapon. Combined with its sheer size and armored back, it would have been an invulnerable beast. Dacentrurus lived in a diverse ecosystem alongside many other dinosaurs in late Jurassic Europe. Those are every genus of Stegosauria that have been formally described until now. The Stegosaurians arguably have the most identifiable features of all dinosaurs. The various arrangements of their double rows of dermal plates and spines lining their distinctive rounded backs, added with the thagomizers at the tip of their tails, make them stand out like no other animals. There is still a lot that we don't know about these majestic herbivores. Fossil evidence indicates that the Stegosaurian saw a decline in diversity from the early Cretaceous. It is unclear what caused it and if this group survived to later periods. But from their Middle Jurassic to early Cretaceous reign, the Stegosaurians radiated and dispersed to many continents around the globe, predominantly Asia, North America, and Europe, with some species found in Africa and South America. They remained uncontended as some of the most heavily armored and at the same time well-decorated animals the world has ever seen.